Good morning, loves. It is Tuesday, the 10th of November, and I did something I never do, which is I sat here sipping a little coffee and actually writing several pages of notes for this morning's video. I don't do that. I sit down here with my coffee and I just speak off the cuff, whatever's in my heart in the moment. I'm sorry. But a couple of things have happened that have kind of unnerved me this morning more than last night. You'll hear in a second. And as I worked through these things, I came to some realizations. And in the process of it all, I decided that I just had to read what is now in my life, after a lifetime of loving many poets and much poetry, the one poet that speaks to me in my life, well, she has for some time, and that's Mary Oliver. And I'm going to read to you one of her poems. And I wrote the whole thing out here in my notebook because I have the book with the poem in it. I can't, because of my foot, get all around the house looking for it. I can't have the computer open to read it off the screen, so I wrote the whole thing out. So I'm going to need to do a little referring to my notes, and especially when I read the poem. And I hope you'll forgive me for that. I don't like to be looking like down at my notes and not at you, and I'll try to make that as minimal as I can. So yes, I am having my morning coffee, and Molly is here beside me sleeping. I had a lot of fun doing the content for yesterday. On the first tier, I shared with you the golden dragonfly. The second and third tiers, as I did the work, I shared them both to all levels in Patreon. So if you were thinking about going to a different tier but wasn't sure what they were all about, I wanted you to see some examples. But I also really need to build my community here. And people share some of their content publicly for that reason, because a lot of people are really unsure what Patreon is all about and they don't really understand. So once a week, and today's the day for this, on Tuesdays I am going to publicly share a morning coffee with Maitri, just once a week. And from time to time, and not weekly, maybe only monthly, I'm not sure, I will share a little content so those considering Patreon might have some idea the kind of thing I do. So I really had a lot of fun yesterday, especially putting up the gathering basket, which is the ebook e-course level. That is so much the kind of thing I've always taught. And so anyway, I got those things done and out yesterday. I really kind of caught up yesterday. But then last night, no, this is, almost silly to even mention, but last night something happened and it really threw me. I went to heat something up for dinner and the microwave had died. I use the microwave every day because when you live alone and you cook, after that first day and you have leftovers, you just heat up a little something for yourself, or you heat up your coffee if it's gone cold. Or I don't think microwaves are great. I think there's probably some health issues around the using of the microwaves, but it's a godsend for me, and it just flat died. And for a moment, I had a panic. And then, because I practice what I preach, I dropped down to the level of accepting what is. I pulled out small pot and a small pan, heated the things that I needed to on the stove, got the job done. When you drop down to what is and consider your possibilities from that place, you don't panic because something else isn't working. This is so silly to say, but I felt kind of proud of myself in that moment when I was heating things in little pans on my stove, because in times past, because I'm bipolar and struggle with mental health issues, and as I've told you, I have very rigid routines in place that make me feel safe and that I rely on and that make me okay. And something like that happening so throws me. While it seems ridiculous, I could fall all apart and be terrified and upset because the microwave stopped working. Well, I got the job done anyway. This is the small issue, the very small issue in comparison. This morning, as I was making my coffee, the phone rang. I thought I had an appointment with Jeff this week. Jeff is the PA that manages my medications, has for years. I love him dearly. I saw him not quite 4 weeks ago when he changed my medication and gave me the protocol for starting and then raising the dose. We had a very wonderful talk that day. They're doing appointments on the phone. And I've been, doing what I've been doing. And then it occurred to me, I thought I had an appointment with him this week. And I always write everything down. I'm real particular about keeping track of things. And I looked on my calendar and there was nothing there. I thought, oh my God, how did I forget to write that down? So I left a message at the office saying, I think I have an appointment with Jeff this week, and I'm so embarrassed because I didn't write it down. Would you please call me back and affirm the appointment time? So Elizabeth, who is the front desk person who calls for these kinds of things, very kind, we've kind of talked here and there, called me and she said, Maitri, first of all, you're good because you didn't have an appointment. It somehow didn't, I got off the phone with Jeff when I did 4 weeks ago, and he said, make an appointment for a month. But it's different when you are doing these phone or Zoom things. It's different because if you were in the office, you would go from his office up to the front desk where they would make your other appointment. But I got off the phone with Jeff and I guess I forgot to call and to make another appointment. I thought I had. And usually if you don't call to make your appointment, they do call and say, Jeff wanted to see you in 4 weeks. Okay. Well, so she called back and she said, no, you're good, you don't have an appointment, but I have to tell you something. Jeff has had to take a sudden medical leave. And it'll be 2 months or more before he's back. And we have your chart. He's seen you for years. The doctors here are the other doctors are going to go through everyone's charts and kind of pick up the slack until we can make appointments again. And then she started crying. I could hear her, and I said, Elizabeth, are you okay? And she said, it's really hard now. In other words, I wondered if Jeff had died. And she couldn't say. Whatever happened, something really terrible happened. Because she's saying, I said, did this happen suddenly? She said, very suddenly. And I thought, oh my God. And I didn't ask any questions because, you just don't. But I got off the phone and I prayed. I prayed for Jeff. and his family and Elizabeth and all the people there. Everyone loved him, or loves, I will say, but it doesn't sound good. He has been very kind to me, and I have been seeing him for several years. And it kind of shook me up really badly. And I prayed, and I sat there, and I got tears in my eyes. I just have this feeling that it's something really bad, and that I may not ever be able to see him again. And this is unnerving, because when you deal with mental health issues, you really rely on the practitioners that you see. And so I'm holding a good thought for him, and I will keep him in my prayers. So there was that. And I sat here, and I realized, and I thought again, as I have so often before, about how very, very fragile life is. Ephemeral. If we lived 150 years, it would pass in a moment. That's what it would feel like. And yet, we really can't think in those terms. We can't worry about the past and what's already happened, because we can't change it. We can't possibly know, no matter how much we plan, what will happen in the future, or tomorrow, or an hour from now. And that just gets back to the teaching that I both teach and preach and live. It starts with accepting what is. It starts with accepting that the microwave doesn't work, but it's not the end of the world. You have a couple pots and pans around, you can actually heat it on the stove like we used to in the old days. Suddenly, something may happen to someone you love or care about, or that's important in your life. And there will be a process, a time to live your way through that. And I'm not saying that it wouldn't be difficult. But you assess what is in the moment. You figure out what you can do to be helpful. And you do whatever you can from where you are. You pray and hold that person in your heart and your good thoughts. And you just move forward as best you can in each moment. And I thought about how all of us are here. We got another new patron yesterday. Thank you, dear Marilyn, for joining us. We've got 19 patrons now, and I'm very excited. And I thought, this is a very sacred, special thing that we have all come together in Patreon. That I put it up to get support for my work, and I greatly appreciate your help and your support as patrons. But you have given me the gift of being able to share my work and share with you that which matters to me. And I hope I am able to give to you in a way through the content I provide at each tier, to help you, to comfort you, to inspire you, to create your own dreams. And then I came to the poem I want to read you, and I will end with that because I may run a minute or two over reading the poem, but I really am going to try not to. What I wanted to end with is the poem that has come to mean so much to me over the last few years. I have quoted the last 2 lines over and over, used it in my writing, shared it with friends. As I said, I have the book. The poet is Mary Oliver. The poem is The Summer Day. And I'm sure a lot of you know this poem, especially those last 2 lines. But I want to end by reading you The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous, complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing again all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? The end of that poem gets me every single time. Tell me, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? Mary Oliver's poetry is beyond unbelievably fantastic and deep and brief and to the point, not all flowery, rhyming things, but there's a quality to her poetry that just gets me where I live. And in that question, tell me, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? Is not only a question to mull over, to ask ourselves every day to keep us on track with the way that we move forward, but is a reminder that we have this one wild and precious life. And that's Maisie's message. And that's accepting what is. Because if we don't accept what is, where we are, with what we have, with who we are, as we are, right now, in this moment, we can't move forward. So what I will do with my one wild and precious life is to keep doing this work, to keep showing up here 5 days a week for the morning coffee, for sharing the content that I create at all 3 levels, and we'll be putting more up today at all 3 levels, to sharing my heart as honestly and with as much love as I possibly can, and for being here for you, and for inspiring you, hopefully encouraging you to go for your dreams. And your dream for today might be to have a perfect cup of tea this afternoon and a quiet time to read a book. It doesn't have to be the win $1 million and travel the world kind of dream. What are the dreams that support your life and bring you joy right now? When you accept what is, when you do something like the gathering basket exercise, which is a tier 3 exercise, but I shared with all of you yesterday, you get closer to building on what you have, to celebrating what you have. So, my dear ones, tell me, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? I thank you for spending part of it here with me. I feel blessed and grateful. When I come to you each morning, I am sharing my one wild and precious life with you. And it matters to me so much. And I love and appreciate you so much. Have a blessed and beautiful day. And know that I am holding you very close in my heart.